Yeah, so let's pick a title for this one.
Oh yeah, okay.
I wrote down some things you said that would make a good title. Let me know which one's your favorite, and we'll use that one.
Yeah.
We had some zingers, man.
There were. So, okay, hold on. But that's the point. So the reader creates their own version. You can't deny it. Hopefully the tank will stop following us. I don't know what the book's about yet.
Hopefully the tank will stop following us. That's the most obscure one.
All right. And Baz, you're still recording?
Go ahead.
Season 6, episode 34. Hopefully the tank will stop following us. This is Written on the Edge. I'm Van Sebastian here with my co-host, S.A. Baz Collins.
Hey.
And we're really glad you're here with us. Our guest today is Kevin Klehr. Kevin lives with his husband Warren in their humble apartment, affectionately named Sabrina, in Australia's own Emerald City, Sydney. His tall tales explore unrequited love in the theater district of the afterlife, romance between a dreamer and a realist, and a dystopian city addicted to social media. So, with his fictional guardian angel guiding him, Kevin hopes to bring more whimsical tales of love, life, and friendship to his readers. Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, nice to be here again. It's been a while. It's been a while.
It
It's been
has
over a
been a
year,
while.
yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to
So,
actually see you guys. Sorry to interrupt, but it's
no,
instead of just audio, it's nice to actually look at you guys.
right,
Right, I know.
and it feels more like a conversation at that point.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, for listeners who haven't heard your earlier episodes, give a quick how you became a writer, but then let's talk about what you've been up to.
Okay, just quickly, I used to love writing as a kid, but I took it more seriously about 15 years ago. Had my first novel, which was originally called Staging Life, but changed to Drama Queens with Love Scenes, professionally assessed 3 times. And then after that, I sent it out into the world, and after countless rejection letters, finally had a small Boston publisher interested in it. They gave me a wonderful editor, in fact, my favourite editor up to this point, named Mary Bell. She's passed away since, but she helped
Mm,
me reshape it over 3 months. I learned a lot from her. Things like don't add, such and such rolled their eyes or raised their voice in the middle of dialogue. If the dialogue is clear that that's probably what they're doing, and gave me a clearer understanding of show don't tell. And that's how it all got started that long ago. I think Drama Queens and Love Scenes was first published in 2012, but I worked on it for many years before that because first novels, first
right,
novels, you
Yeah, that journey is always the longest one.
you
it
don't know
is.
what you're doing. Yeah, yeah,
Yep. And it is now the first book in a series of 3, if I remember correctly.
yes, yes, which are called the Actors and Angels series, even though they all start with with Drama Queens in their title. Actors and Angels just puts it then more into perspective.
Excellent. So, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Lockdown. Sydney has been in lockdown since June. Just to give a clear indication, we were doing very well with COVID
Hmm.
last year. So, because our government put all its efforts into AstraZeneca, and we even create AstraZeneca in Australia as well, once blood clots started happening, a lot of Australians went, okay, well, hold on. We're in a good spot. We're a small population on a landmass as big as the US. Um, we'll wait till Pfizer gets here. And of course, other countries needed Pfizer more. So our shipments went over to Europe and all that. We were
Hmm.
still fine until the Delta variant. So Sydney's been in lockdown since June. It looks like at the moment, probably not till the end of September. So Warren and I go for our healthy walks in the morning. We've been cooking a lot. I haven't been writing as much because I need total privacy when I write. And so I can't escape to the library. My husband goes out two mornings a week to volunteer. So that's my brief time to write. So yeah, that's what we've been up to, in learning to make bread.
Nice.
Yeah. And going through old recipes.
So you're responsible for the yeast shortage.
Yes, exactly. If there's a yeast shortage, it's me. It's me.
Well, you also managed to get a book through to publication. I think its release date is shortly after this episode. It's like by a day or two, isn't it?
When's this episode go to air?
It'll air the 27th.
Oh yeah. In fact, on the 27th, if you'll be able to, you can pre-order now, and on the 27th, which is today, when the episode goes to air, you'll be able to get it straight from Nine Star Press 3 days early before the actual release date. And that's an ebook edition.
Perfect.
It'll be available in ebook and print form.
So let's talk about The Midnight Man.
The Midnight Man, when my editor, the wonderful Elizabeth Caldwell, who's a writer herself, sent me the acceptance letter, yes, we'd like to offer you a contract for it, she summed it up for me in a way that I forgot that that's what it was originally about. And she said it was, what she loved about it, it's about the good and bad aspects of growing older. And that's pretty much what the book is totally about. It's about aging and growing older. The main character, Stanley, is about to turn 50, and in his dreams, he meets a 21-year-old who gives him the chance to be an extra 5 years younger each time they meet in the dreams. Now, Stanley is insecure. He's got an overbearing mother. He's in a failed relationship. Him and his partner, Francesco, their relationship just isn't working. And so through these nighttime adventures, he starts building up the strength, and also by getting younger, starts seeing the world differently with Asher. So what in fact happens, yes, a love triangle starts happening. There's his real life love of Francesco that isn't quite working out, but there's his dream lover that is working out, but he can't live in his dreams. It's urban fantasy, magic realism more than it is romance. But it's essentially about growing older and looking at where you are in life, seeing if you're happy, and what if you're not happy, what can you do about it, taking that strength back.
So he's only getting younger in his dreams, though, not in the real world.
No, he'd love to be getting, but in his dreams, and when he is closer in age to Asher, that's when a romance develops in his dream life.
Okay.
And, he knows he can't live in his dreams, but that's where he's happiest.
So, but you said in his dreams, he's confronting elements of himself and seeing things differently. So there's a growth pattern.
It's a growth pattern. Because there is something that happened in his childhood he can't remember. And his mother alludes to it sometimes, because on Tuesday night, Stanley goes and has a regular dinner date with his mother in one of her apartments. She's quite wealthy.
Okay.
And this apartment is only kept for the Tuesday night dinners with the son. It's not rented out. She doesn't live in it, but it's only for the Tuesday night dinners with the son to catch up. And she knows of something that happened in his childhood that changed him, but he doesn't remember it. And so through these dreams, he gradually comes closer to reliving that event, and then finding where his confidence suddenly dropped and understanding why. So as you can see, there's romantic elements like a lot of my books, but it's not a romance.
It's not the driving factor of the story.
If anything, it's a self-romance.
Yes. Yeah. And I love those stories. That's something
absolutely.
People who grow and learn to love themselves and who they are and accept themselves.
So when I was researching this, I looked at Nine Star Press's tags for this book. A couple of them caught my eye.
Yes.
The first one they have is cheating.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know, all of us cheat a little bit in our dreams. So, and that's acceptable. You can't help what happens in your dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So Stanley is cheating in his dreams. His mother suspects Francesco is cheating. His real life partner is cheating.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out through the book that is true. At one stage, I sent this to a beta reader, and she said, "Oh, people aren't going to like the fact that his partner, Francesco, is cheating." And I'm thinking, but that's the point. It's a failed relationship.
Right.
Unless it's within the parameters of your relationship, people don't cheat if they're happy in their relationship.
Right.
They don't go looking
Exactly.
somewhere else. That's the point. And even when she said this, I sort of thought, how can we now in the 21st century, something that's, been a good plot device for centuries,
Mm-hmm.
be suddenly looked down upon? I mean, even in the 70s, there's an episode of MASH where BJ Honeycutt has a one-night stand, and then he's writing to his wife wanting to tell her about it, and Hawkeye's saying, "Darling, you're in war. This is acceptable. Don't break up your marriage because you know yourself. This doesn't mean anything.
Well,
These are strenuous circumstances." And, that's something that went to air in the 70s, on American television.
Well,
So,
that concept in stories has been around since the Greek myths. I mean, Zeus was the world's first cheater.
exactly. Exactly. So when a beta reader told me that, and she was trying to give me advice to make it more
palatable.
Commercial. And she even, I think.
But the problem is, she probably framed it as a romance, and in romance, that is a taboo you don't talk about. So, and your book is clearly not a romance; it has romantic and I think that's where a lot of readers have problems discerning the two. Although writers understand a story can have romantic threads, but not be a romance. And, a story that is a romance can have other genre like, threads woven into it, but still be a solid romance story. And I think that's where the dividing line comes from. And even if you tell a beta reader, "Oh, this is not a romance," if that's all they generally read, they still respond as if it's a romance,
Mm-hmm. And it's something about my books. A lot of people think I write romance. Nate and the New Yorker and Nate's Last Tango are romances. All my books do have a relationship in there somewhere, but they're not romances. Even Drama Queens with Love Scenes is a story about unrequited love. Mm-hmm. The whole book, Alan is trying to get together with Warwick, so it's not as real. It's not a romance. It's not even an HEA at the end. There's a different resolution. And one of the problems, and people do think I write romance. They often put me in that category. I have been put in those forums at literary festivals. So it's like, I have to look up what reverse harem means before I go on them, because I'm not really of that ilk. I'm not against romance. I've read some beautiful romances, but it's not really my genre, even though people often mistake it as my genre.
No, I get it. I definitely get it. And I think that there's also some disparity, or just, there's some misunderstandings. Like if you write young adult versus new adult can be a lot darker in its romantic threads, and it's not a real romance, whereas a coming of age teen story can have some angst, but it generally resolves itself to a pseudo HEA, if not a direct one. And I think so even in other aspects of writing stories that have romantic threads, it gets really lost in the muddlement of, anytime you have the word romance, must be HEA.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And the other thing I'll say, the last time I was on your show, I talked about I was writing something with a horror element into it.
Yeah,
this beta reader, this was actually the book, and she had these horror ideas, which I did a version of. But when I got to the end, it's like I realized there's a big plot hole that you only realize when you get to the end, and it's like I'm not going to redo the whole book. But the whole resolution of it just wasn't as strong anymore, because suddenly there's this horror element that is resolved as well. And so there was a horror version of this that I disbanded, but I did take two of the characters from that horror version and planted them in the newer drafts.
Excellent.
Very cool. So I know we're dancing around the spoilers. He does resolve the stuff from his past that his mom knows. Does he?
Yes. Go on.
Does he repair the relationship with her?
Oh, his mother Adelaide and him are extremely close. And Adelaide is very snotty.
She'd have to be. She has a different apartment for different meals.
Absolutely. And the thing is, living in Sydney, I have a friend whose mother did have several apartments and rented them all out, because that's, because some people are rich in Sydney. So,
right.
So I took that from a real, someone who I did know. And yeah, she's the only one that knows what this secret is and what happened to him in his childhood.
Mm-hmm.
His partner doesn't know, but Asher goes to try to find out.
Okay.
And thus try to resolve it in the dreams.
So I suspect Asher's more than just a dream construct.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, originally in earlier drafts, he was more mysterious. But because my lovely publisher, who I adore, 9 Star Press, there's a certain word count before it's a print edition. And as my last book was only an ebook, I really wanted a print edition, which is why I put these other elements in.
Okay.
We learn more about Asher and his world now in the final draft. But I don't really explore who he is completely and why he's there. You sort of know, but there's some things you love the reader to create in their own minds. And let's face it, as authors, that's our role, to give enough information so the reader creates their own version of our book. Otherwise we're just telling them too much and they get bored. They have to imagine it for themselves.
Right. I have one more anecdote I want to ask about.
Yeah.
I hear that you wrote a sex scene for the book and forgot it was a sex scene.
Oh yeah. I don't normally write.
Only you, Kevin. Only you.
Yeah. I don't normally write sex scenes. I've written one erotic tale, which I don't really promote because it sells itself. Drama Queens and Love
Sex
Scenes
sells.
has sex sells.
Mhm.
Drama Queens with Love Scenes has 3 sex scenes because the original publisher, long before 9 Star Press and Bold City Press, wanted me to put 3 sex scenes in it. And being a new author, I pushed back and I thought, well, I didn't want to be a difficult author. It's what they want, blah, blah, blah. But I usually fade to black. This sex scene is about showing how unhappy Stanley is in his relationship. And originally the book started with a nightclub scene and then went on to the sex scene. But the nightclub scene was never, no matter how many drafts I did of it, was never enough to make a reader go, oh yeah, I'll keep reading. Because as we all know, there are previews if you buy online, and you want to make sure that first chapter is strong enough for someone to go, yep, I want to read more.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually I just realized, okay, that scene, that nightclub scene goes, we start with the sex scene. But because I rewrote the sex scene to be less titillating and more about how unhappy Stanley was, I just forgot it was a sex scene because it had a different value to me. It wasn't to titillate, it's part of the story.
Right.
So during Icarus, the online event, I shortened the opening scene, read it, and then after I read it, all these faces on the were looking back at me a little bit shocked. Oh, he went there, and suddenly I realised, oh yeah, it's a sex scene, but I don't mean it to be a sex scene. And then furthermore, I wanted an amendment to that opening scene, but originally with the early drafts of the final 9-star press edition, the tags were in there, and it said, strong sex scene. And I was writing this email back to my editor saying, look, I'm often mistaken for writing strong sex scenes, yet I don't. I fade to black, blah, 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 blah. By the way, in the first scene, could you make this amendment? And I'm writing it going, that's a sex scene, Kevin. That's a sex scene. There is a sex scene in this book, You can't deny it. But I just, in my own mind, I forgot it was.
That's awesome.
Well, you had an alternative goal. That's why you were going. For you, like you said, the value was somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was what was driving it.
Exactly.
It's a simple case of two things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want folks to know about The Midnight Man?
Look, no, I think that pretty much covers it. It's the first book I've written in third person. It is omnipresent voice, which towards the end, I think just before, as a proofreader, as was at proofreader stage, I started worrying about. But my editor said, no, look, it's fine. It reads clearly. It's a lot of people don't like omnipresent, but it works well for me. It worked well for the copy editor. I would not try to change it, especially at this late stage when,
right.
It's already being promoted,
Yep. All right. Excellent. Folks, if you're listening to this the day it airs, head to 9-Star Press's website and you can, the pre-orders will be delivered. It'll technically be pre-order for another couple of days, but you can still read it today.
Yeah. You can get an ebook edition on the day this podcast
goes live.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what's coming up next for you?
I've been slowly working on the sequel to Social Media Central called Virtual Insanity. And actually,
nice title.
Plus I'm working on another separate project, which I have a title for, but the title's so good, I'm not sharing it.
Okay.
It's something a friend once
Fair
said.
enough.
And I went, I'm using that as a book title. I don't know what the book's about yet.
But I got the title.
I got the title. Well, the book is about set in the 90s, and I've always wanted to write a book that celebrates the rave party drug culture scene of the 90s that Warren and I went through. There was big dance parties almost every weekend. Of course, there was, still is the Mardi Gras party, but there was also the sleazeball party and toy box and all these other ones. So I've got I'm writing a book based around the gay scene in the 90s, which I've even had to go to the State Library, and the two newspapers, that Street Press that were out at the time, they gave me the microfiche, and that really helped. It really helped to re-envision and remember the 90s and how it changed, how we became,
especially if you were up during the 90s.
yeah.
You need a little reminder. Oh yeah, that's how it went.
That's how it went. That's how it went. But even researching stuff like around Oxford Street, which was the main street in Sydney for gay life, there were bashings, and there was the, carrying whistles around, if you were walking home, to about midway when Priscilla, Queen of the Desert came out, big mainstream film, and Mardi Gras and all that became more mainstream. It was telecast, the parade was telecast on air. So just seeing the change in the 90s and remembering it was a big help. Research, because I felt I wasn't capturing the feel. But once I went through all that microfilm and, copied some of the pages, it just made the book much more real. But I want to talk about something about Virtual Insanity.
Yeah.
It's interesting how
I love that it already has its theme song with Jamiroquai having a song by that name.
Yes, and I was trying to come up with a title, and someone said Virtual Insanity. Oh no, I was watching the video clip.
Oh, okay.
That's it. That's the title. But something interesting I started writing it before the whole COVID thing, and the first half centers around a society where people are slaves to their boss, are literal slaves to their boss. And there's a bit of a counter movement. And one of the characters is learning to cook, something something people don't have time for, and he's learning to re-establish a skill, something creative. And then the second half really centers around the idea of your social media algorithms actually brainwashing you. Now, as I was writing that,
it's a thing.
Yeah, but the thing is, at the time, it was like, I get it, but a lot of people aren't going to get that. Well, hello, COVID. People have lost their jobs, or they're working from home, or they've discovered the art of cooking. So that whole part doesn't have as much punch anymore, first half. I'm actually deleting the character who is learning to cook and all that, because it really has not much relevance anymore. The second half, thanks to Capitol Hill and idiots protesting freedom and, masks off, there's no COVID, it's like, people aren't going to go, oh, come on, we're not brainwashed by
it's our world.
It's actually strengthened the second half of the book.
Well, it's just amazing to me that how much Trumpism has invaded Australia. You see, it's just shocking. That really blew my mind. How many people are like that?
Yeah, when we had, 3-4 weeks ago, 3,000 people protesting in the middle of Sydney, and I was shocked. I thought, we're not that stupid. I
know.
Even when I saw protests like that in the Netherlands, I thought, they're not that stupid. How, in that country, or in this country, or in that country, how are there people who think that way? So it's been interesting writing a dystopian tale when the world's changing so quickly, and you look at what you wrote 3 years ago, and then you're updating it and going, that's now stronger, that's now weaker, so the first half is what I'm really reworking to be more relevant. But, and even I wasn't even going to mention COVID in it, but it's got to the stage now. COVID has to be mentioned in a futuristic tale.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like Van says, we'll refer to it as the before time, going forward, because we knew what life was like then and how good we had it. And now, it's the aftermath. So, and I don't think, because of all the idiocy, the COVID idiots running around, I don't know that we'll see an end to this in any short term. I think we're in it for the long haul for a while, and which is really, really terrifying for me because of my grandchildren. I'm thinking, what the hell is this world going to be for them? And the clock is ticking on, like global warming and everything else going on, and water shortages are becoming a big thing now, which is why my state is on fire yet again. It's just, and Australia has the same problem.
We'll be there our summer,
Yeah, exactly. And the sad part is it's becoming less and less of a seasonal thing and almost a year-round thing, and that's what's terrifying.
Our lovely gay twink weatherman on ABC television here, news breakfast program, actually was talking about that. They've realised that in Australia, winter is becoming shorter. It's starting later and it's finishing earlier. Now, we are in winter at the moment, but it's already warming up towards spring. It's already started. Even though I'm wearing a light, little sweater for this interview, it's because we're on camera and I have to look nice.
But it's already warming up there, yeah.
It's already warming up. I wear something thicker than this. It is still winter here, but it's not normally getting this warmer for another couple of weeks.
Right.
But it's already here.
Yeah.
And the other thing that also scares me about the world at the moment, which I think last time I was on, I said authoritarian governments. And, we've had Belarus, Myanmar, Hong Kong, now Afghanistan. Toxic masculinity in power is just not the way the world should be.
Right.
That's
what I'm going to say. Give the ladies a try. We've had it for too long.
Exactly.
Let them run things.
Look at New Zealand.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You know, we all love it.
Oh well.
All right. Any final words of wisdom?
Oh, no, I think we've just gone through that period. Yeah, let the women have it, please.
There we go.
You know?
Especially those old white guys that are trying to run everything and they're clinging to their last vestiges of power.
They really
No,
are.
you know what? Give it to the ladies. Let the ladies take this.
Oh, exactly. You know, and even seeing, you know, I mean, let's not get too political, but, you know, during the Trump era, how the whole world shift has changed. Now we're stuck with that world shift.
Mm-hmm.
How Russia and China are still in Afghanistan, and China's happy to start working with the Taliban. You know, it's like, well,
Right.
if Trump never happened, the balance of the world would have been fine, but it's now changed, and it's that change is now where we are now.
Yeah,
anyway, let's not get too depressed.
Let's not. Well, let's see. We talked about the sex scene, so I don't know how else to bring this conversation up.
I know, and I love talking
There's
about
no business like show. I'll do my Ethel Merman.
That'll do it. You saw it here first, folks.
Now you guys know why I'm in therapy. No.
I
channel Ethel Merman.
Totally understand that.
You are a beautiful mermaid. Now, folks, this is Written on the Edge. The Rope Podcast is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.ropepodcast.com. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to Kevin Klehr for being with us. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again.
Anytime. Please come back.
Yes, anytime. And bring your husband with you.
Folks, head over to 9 Star Press's website, pick up The Midnight Man, and enjoy your read of the character Stanley learning to love himself.
Yeah,
I'll say it like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.